Hey everyone, thanks so much. We're getting started with our Donut County developer commentary.
Yeah.
And over here I have the amazing Ben Esposito.
Hi.
Give him a hand. And he's here, he's gonna play through a little bit of his game Donut County, which if you haven't played it, please go and play it on the cabinets in the back after we hear from Ben. We're gonna be seeing a little bit of playthrough footage, and he's also invited me up here next to his laptop. I think we're gonna be getting a little developer sneak peek into sort of the behind the scenes and some of the code behind Donut County, so I'm really excited to see that.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, so I'm going to play the game. I'm going to explain a little bit about it, some of the process behind it. Maybe show you some stuff that I cut or decided wasn't good enough, stuff I'm working on, and then I'm going to show you maybe like how some things work. I don't know. Just going to like talk to you guys if you guys have any questions, whatever. That's cool. I'm also going to play it in the editor, so it might do funny things. Don't worry about that. Okay, so I'm Ben Esposito. I'm an independent game developer based out of LA. I'm from New York originally. My last project was a game called The Unfinished Swan. I did the level design for that. And after that, I started working on prototypes, and I made the very first version of this at a game jam where you control a hole in the ground. It was at the Molly Jam. I don't know if anyone did that. Yeah. It was super fun, and it was my game was based on the really simple concept of you control a hole in the ground, and then I decided I wanted to play with that and make a game where you don't necessarily have a body, you are just kind of this force of this hole, and I came up with the idea of it getting bigger and bigger and swallowing things, and the whole game has been a process of of figuring out what it means to be a hole and to control negative space and what happens when things go away, where do they go. So I'll just start a little bit. So as you can tell, I'm super vain, and I put my name in the very first screen of the game. This is basically the entire game. It's just my name over and over again. No, you control this hole, and anytime something falls in, you get a tiny, tiny bit bigger. So this world of Donut County, it takes place in Donut County, which is a fictional. It's a fictional LA, where there's these raccoons that are kind of like coming in with their own donuts, and they're threatening the donut ecosystem of Los Angeles. So here's the donut shop that it centers around. So there's like downtown LA right here.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about how the relationship of LA as a city works into this game?
Yeah, it was, I mean, I went through a very long process of kind of figuring out the identity of the game, and I settled on donuts because I like donuts a lot, and moving to LA was kind of like a donut revelation for me, because where I come from, I'm from New York originally, specifically Long Island, which has no donut culture at all. It's all Dunkin' Donuts there. It's like chain donuts. So when I went to LA, it was all these like independent donut shops, and they're run inside different neighborhoods, and each one has like a different vibe to them. Some of them are like Chinese restaurants / donut shops. Some are like just 24-hour shops. And I thought that was really cool. And then I saw the news that Dunkin' Donuts was moving into LA, which I was not very happy about. Because I know they're gonna kind of like start to take over the independent shops. So the whole for me was kind of like this process of erasure, and I wanted to talk about a little bit about gentrification, but through the like the funniness of donuts and donut culture.
A love letter to indie donuts.
Exactly. So here's like the donut shop. It's inspired by a specific donut shop, Randy's Donuts. Thank you, Randy. Uh, they're not his donuts. And so, yeah, the idea right now is that there's this girl who's eating these different donuts that take her on like this kind of vision journey of this hole that's getting closer and closer to Donut County. So you start in the desert. It's based on the Mojave Desert a little bit. So there's just some stuff, just wandering around. The game starts with just picking things up. But I keep layering more and more things onto it. I'm also gonna, I forgot I was gonna do this. I'm gonna play as this raccoon, so I can control him and drive him around. He's just gonna be my tourist raccoon. So I'll use him to like give you some commentary about different places. So I always wanted to talk about gentrification, just as like a little bit of a background. So these raccoons are these like new entrants to Donut County, and I wanted to like show you as the whole kind of sucking up all the old cultures and the old buildings and stuff there. So this is like kind of like provisional housing. And there's like a little cactus garden over here. Suck that up.
So this game has been described as like a reverse Katamari. Was Katamari an inspiration to you, or were there other games that inspired this gameplay?
That's a good question. Katamari is definitely an inspiration. It feels a little bit like the reverse Katamari, although it's very similar to the main mechanic. Katamari is a game where you roll a ball around and stuff sticks to it, and you get bigger and bigger, which allows you to collect bigger things. The game portion of it is that there's a timer, and so the game becomes about planning a path through a space. And I didn't want to do that as much, so I'm trying to focus on different fun physical interactions that are a bit more puzzly than that, to give you a chance to interact with the objects and the meaning of the objects a little bit. So I'll go into that in the next level, actually. No big deal. Cool. So we have a little campsite here. Just gonna start cruising around. There's like different animals who live around here, and we're all like taking over their houses and stuff. So when you drop certain things in the hole, there'll be different effects. So hello. Is that me? Is that me? I can't tell. How can I do better? Okay, yeah. I'll stay close on the mic. Okay, anyway, so you can have fire, and then when you collect certain things, it'll interact with those effects. For instance, this popcorn. And then you'll have this. They're coming in and out and doing silly things. Cool. This level's a bit more complicated. You can get the carrot stuck in the hole. And you can lure these bunnies down. What up? And then when you get big enough, you can collect both of them. And they like do stuff in the hole. So that's like the very basic flavor of the game, is like collecting different things and combining them.
It strikes me as very contemplative, and I like that about this game. It looks like there's not a way to die, or maybe not one that I found yet. Is that true?
Yeah, there's no like fail state at all. Usually there's just, the things will like reset naturally, which is a bit more design work, but I think it's important to the vibe of the game that it feels like the game's not like telling you that you failed at all. It's just saying like, oh no, this is maybe a different way to do it. Because you're a hole, like holes don't fail, they can't fail. There's some ominous stuff. like questions about what might be underground, and those will be answered in the game. So that's the basic idea of it. I have like other puzzly levels, but I could dive into the editor a little bit and show some stuff too.
Do we have any questions for Ben right now after taking a look at the gameplay? Yeah.
Hi. I love the look. How's it going?
It's going okay. I'm just up here on my laptop. It's
Cool.
like every day.
Awesome. I love not just the look of the game, but how many different like animals you have. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you arrived at sort of this contourless look that allowed you to have such adorable animals.
So like the visual style, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
didn't really study 3D at all. I was more of a 2D person, and I was doing a lot of illustration when I was getting into games, so a lot of my stuff was 2D. And then I took a class on Maya, and I thought it was really cool, and I always wanted to do 3D, but I never could find a way that to like have imprint my style on it, because I didn't understand how to do textures. I didn't know how to do all that stuff. And so I started messing with like taking away different elements that I learned. So like I had learned, like texturing things. I had learned, putting shaders on stuff. And for this, I decided to take away as much as possible. So there's no lighting, there's no textures. It's just flat colors. And that was a good constraint for me visually. So everything, for the most part, most things you see are just a flat color with no other like information on it, no lighting or whatever. Of course, once I did that, I realized I had a very obvious problem of like, there's no depth to any of the scenes. So for instance, this is a camera looking at the ground. It's not super easy to tell. Like the hole gives you some information. There's water in it now. So I added the shadows to like help kind of like mesh things to the ground, and also these like repeated elements of the grass. And so it's been a process of like, here's the constraint of like no lighting, no gradients. How do I communicate depth, and how do I like, I don't know, make things feel volumetric and alive? And I've just vibed on that ever since.
Great, thanks. Other questions for Ben? Yes, Rusty.
So it's been just fascinating to see this game progress as you've added more and more character, I guess, over the last couple of years that I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
I know last year you were playing with sort of a cloud guy and kind of adding personality there, and now you have like probably just 10 times better with like all these animals and just like looking at the whole, and there's so much more character there. How did that sort of grow from where you started?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So originally the theme of the game was quite different. It was called Kachina, and it was inspired by Kachina dolls, which is part of like Pueblo Native American religion. And I thought they looked really interesting, and I wanted to like incorporate them and make them the characters. So I did that for a while, and that was kind of my original style. So they have like all the different Kachina have different powers, and they represent different things, and so that's kind of where the cloud thing came from. And I was building on that for a while, but then I learned a lot about cultural appropriation and reasons why that might not be a good thing to like make a commercial game about, especially because that's not like it's nothing that could be authentic, and I don't want to represent like another group of people. So I kind of like shifted gears and moved towards the donuts, and moved more towards the animals and making the animals like the centerpiece of the game. And so the cool thing about the animals is that there's something like elemental about them in terms of puzzles, because like chickens, everyone knows, are not smart at all. So I can do like really silly things with the chickens, and then the next level I can do more relationships between the animals. So, well, this one's is an egg. The next one is a fox and a chicken, and we kind of know how foxes and chickens work together, and I want to imprint as much character on them as possible. So the fox has his like little butt shaking. And so yeah, and the fox and the chicken in the hole, he eats the chicken. And so you want to get the chicken into the coop.
Other questions for Ben? All right, you want to take us into the behind-the-scenes look?
Yeah, sure. So I know a lot of people are developers or maybe aspiring developers here, so I figured I'd show my like not secret tricks at all to make this game. It's incredibly basic, and my error messages. So I'm using Unity, and this is like I'm working by myself on this project, so any advantage I can get, I'm gonna use. And so my game is very like, it works with Unity super well because I'm using a lot of the systems that they have built in and the structure of files and stuff like that. So each level is its own scene, and it takes place in this like diorama, like two flat planes. And I'm moving the whole around only along that plane, so that helps me simplify it because I'm not a great programmer. So I have this hole, and as you can see, I have like, here, I'll show you. My animals are slightly more complex. So all they're doing, this guy's wandering around here. Sorry, this guy. He's just wandering around his points. He's picking a random point. This dude is just chilling over here. If you move him away, I'll make the hole bigger. He'll like try to path back towards it. Most of the puzzles are not super pre-scripted. I just have like really simple conditions for things happening. So in this one, the fox will just always eat a chicken if he sees him. He'll always run back to this position if he doesn't see him. And then if you can solve the puzzle, I move the camera. And then based on the camera's new position, like whenever the camera changes position, I like fire off a couple of events. So in this case, you can see I'm coming in here, and now I'm like starting to spawn the eggs that are coming out. And you can use that to get bigger. And so the goal of every level is to get everything that you can see. And so all the puzzles kind of break down to, well, how can I use the elements I have to create more elements that will help me get big enough to swallow the biggest ones. So I unlock that one. Dude. What else do I got? So this is an example of like probably the most complex puzzle I have right now. Maybe I'll just make it much bigger. So my idea for like how the logic of the world is set up is that there's kind of it's like an ecosystem of objects that all like kind of become a full circle. So you saw water before. I'm introducing a cloud here, and when you shoot stuff into the cloud, it will rain down water. And when you collect the water, the objects that it rained down, used to make the rain, are inside of the puddles. And so so you get the objects back and you can put them back in. And so in this one, there's like a water wheel. And you can use the water to shoot water up into the water wheel. And then my hope is that eventually you learn to make clouds. And so you can use like a combination of objects to create a cloud, which will create water. And then that will create something else, which like will come full circle. But that's about as puzzly as it's gonna actually get. And that's important to me too, because I don't like puzzle games at all. I'm not saying they're bad. I think like I don't like the feeling of a lot of puzzle games where it's having a dialogue with the designer. And I don't necessarily want you to feel like you're playing against me. Like when you walk into a room in Portal, the game Portal, you'll like be in a huge maze, and it's like the designer is the narrator, who's this like AI or whatever, and it's like, hey, I made you a puzzle. Like start poking around until you figure it out. And I don't want it to feel that way at all. Which is why I'm trying to create this kind of ecosystem of just objects and relationships between objects, and only giving you like little chunks of those relationships to play with and to understand. And also just to have like toys and things to poke around with. So like, I don't know if this is going to be in the game.
Is there more than one way to solve a puzzle, or does every puzzle have one and exactly one solution?
It depends on what puzzle it is. Some of them will have a couple different ways to finish it. For instance, the fox and the chicken one, you can do a bunch of different ways. It's about getting the fox to not be in the same position as the chicken, and so you can like throw the fox on the roof of the coop, and then he can't get back down. Or you can like, throw him to the side, or you can sacrifice a chicken to like get him in the hole, and then like throw him in the air when the new one spawns. Hopefully, there's like a bunch of different ways to do it, and because I'm using like physics for everything, and I'm trying to keep it as not scripted as possible, then interesting things will happen. And if it breaks a little bit, I'm okay with that.
Any other questions for Ben right now? Yes.
Hey, so one of the things I really love about the game is that you're actually doing little bits of storytelling with the objects that kind of appear from the hole, especially when you fill them with water, just something kind of comes right out, like the tennis ball or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I guess I'm wondering how far you're planning to take that, and what else you have planned, I guess.
Yeah, so the story is going to be very simple. And there's not going to be much explicit telling of the story, but I kind of give away a little bit about it, where the idea is that there's these holes and these raccoons that are invading the city, and you're part of that like little force, but you don't quite know what's going on or what it means. And so you're going to be starting in the desert and getting closer and closer, and then you're in the valley, and then you're getting into the city. And I want the objects to kind of just like be signposts for you, and to give you maybe like a little bit of feeling of like bittersweetness, because like it is kind of nice and fun to do, but also every level ends with like a completely blank screen and everything's gone. And so I want to use the combinations of items in the hole as best I can to like give you little vignettes and impressions of this city that has like animals and creatures and people, and I want you to like witness them getting erased, and then the effects of that later in the game, which I don't want to talk about too much because it's like that's like the whole point of checking out the game. But yeah.
Another question. I see a hand up over here. I'll come to you. Here you go.
Hello.
Hi.
I really enjoyed the Unfinished Swan, and my son loved to watch me play because he always liked trying to find the balloons. That was his favorite thing, to point them out. I realized getting a balloon into a hole would probably be a problem. So are you going to have some sort of other collectibles?
I don't think I will right now. I have some ideas about like maybe a level will, if you do a special like interaction in the level, you'll get, you know, like an extra donut or something, and so there's like an extra layer to the levels. I'm also playing with, you can bring some objects from one level to another, which causes a lot of other interesting things to happen, but I'm really trying to keep the game like as pure as possible and have each diorama be its own thing, and you're only focused on the main combinations and stuff like that, so there's not going to be like an extra layer of like meta game or whatever during this. I think there's a question over there. Is the mic working?
Hello?
Oh, you got it.
Hey.
Hey, does the hole in Donut County know the hole in Brooklyn Trash King?
Wait, can you say that again?
Does the hole in Donut County know the hole in Brooklyn Trash King?
So I made a game called Brooklyn Trash King in 2012, I think. It's a text adventure. Thank you. It's a text adventure where you are like a recent Brooklyn, like you just moved to Brooklyn and you're like trying to fund your Kickstarter. The Kickstarter is like randomly generated to be something like really awful and not interesting. And so you're like trying to get it funded, and these raccoons like cut your Wi-Fi out so you can't like refresh the page anymore. And then you have to go travel to where the raccoons live, and you go through this hole, and there's like a giant trash heap of like all this junk, and this king raccoon lives on the trash heap. And he has a lot of Twitter followers, so you have to like convince him to tweet about your Kickstarter. But he makes you do all sorts of like embarrassing things. I think they're cool things. And so, yeah, actually, the Brooklyn Trash King is definitely in this game, like that character, and raccoons serve a very similar purpose, because I like raccoons because they are really good at living with people. They're really good at living around us and like taking advantage of all the stuff we leave behind, and I think they'll probably like do a good job no matter what, no matter how like dangerous we make the world for them. They'll like find a way to be one step ahead of us. And also, like, with regards to the whole, I think they're really good at taking our like detritus and like making that like an asset for them. And so in the game you do see a little bit of what's underground, and I want to answer a couple of questions, but not too many, about what happens to things that get erased, and like who uses them, and is there like evil down there, or is it like what is like this force in these cycles that cause us to like erase things and put new stuff there? And I think raccoons are like a really great actor in that cycle. So yeah, it's the same whole. Long story short.
So you showed us some raccoons earlier. What is their role in this game, or you said you had tourist raccoons to show us today?
My tourist. Yeah, so raccoons they have their own donut shop that they're moving in to Donut County. Donut County is like a local donut shop, and so these raccoons on Vespas are trying to like bring in their new like donut chain, and so you're gonna see them going around Donut County and doing kind of silly things, and you're gonna be able to stop some of them, but you never know like what they're gonna end up doing at the end of the game when you confront them. So yeah, they're basically like the gentrifiers of Donut County, and you're kind of like powerless to stop them. You can only kind of like do a little bit on that front. So I don't want to talk too much because that's like the interesting part of the story.
Ben, is there anything else you want to show us, or open it up for more questions?
Is there anything anyone wants to see inside the editor that would be interesting to them? The debug logs? No, dude, there's a lot of errors. Yeah, you can't see my code. It's really embarrassing. It's like a bunch of if statements and errors and stuff. I mean, I can show you like the level construction, which is incredibly simple. You can just like add a cube, right? And then you go to Donut County, physics. Now it's an object. And so I just have like kind of a fake shadow system. So they're just casting down and determining where to put their shadow. And it scales based on how high up they are and what the scale of the object is. It's really simple.
So what was your learning curve like for this?
I learned a lot.
Engine.
Oh my god. When I first made Donut County, when I made the Game Jam version, I barely knew Unity to the extent that I know now. So I was doing it in like this thing called Playmaker, which is like a node, like a finite state machine thing. Turned out to be a huge mess, and I like rewrote all of it. Most of this project has been learning how the physics system works, because when you work with a physics system, it's a simulation, so there's like a lot that's not in your control. And so I fought that for a really, really long time. And it wasn't until like, I don't know, after the first year, and then I realized like I need to make my game embrace the like terribleness of some of the physics. And so the puzzles got way simpler, and the objects got simpler and chunkier, and I learned like, oh, things need to be really volumetric for them to work well, and they need to fall in the hole. And like the first thing I came up against was like, what if you have a really tall, skinny object? If it falls over, then it's impossible to get into the hole. So like, I have to design the whole world in this like kind of chunky, volumetric way. I do have some tall, skinny things, but they're like specific puzzles. So it took a while to get there.
Cool. It looks like we have another question.
Sorry, maybe I wasn't paying attention earlier, but I wondered about technically how you are accomplishing the whole in terms of dealing with the physics and also dealing with the sort of render order of it. Like it looks like it's a 3D hole, but
I see.
That seems to be a particle emitter.
There's like
going on
particles that when you shoot it up.
I see.
I can show you guys how I do the hole. It's
I mean, I'm
so
curious.
basic. All right, yeah.
Just because it looks like it looks really nice. Like it actually, the way it blends in and everything, like
Thanks.
it's very convincing. So, but I know that it's probably not totally straightforward.
Okay, yeah. So the challenge you run into when you have a hole is like you're gonna have to like take the geometry and deform it, like do a boolean on it basically. And I decided to avoid that because I want the hole to look really smooth, and I couldn't really get it to do that way. So the way the hole works is very simple. Everything takes place on this like ground plane right here. And then I have a separate object, which is the hole. And the hole is a tube, as you can see. It's got the only gradient in the game, so you know it's important. And then all I'm doing is moving it along the surface of the plane. And I have this extra cutout that's a little window that passes through the ground plane. So here, let me open this up. So basically, I have this window that I put on top of the hole, and it allows you to see through the ground into the hole. So I'm never breaking the ground plane at all. And then, so that's like how I do the visuals of it, but the physics are also really simple, which is I have the ground, and then I have the hole with the ground and there are two like physics layers. So you either care about the hole or you care about the ground. And when something touches the hole, it cares about the hole and stops caring about the ground, which means it would fall through. And that's it. That's like as simple as it gets.
And the cutout is you're using some kind of a shader to do that?
Oh, yeah. It's a shader that, based on like the render queue position of the ground, I'm just like rendering whatever. I'm like not rendering it based on that.
Okay, I've done that. Okay, that makes sense.
I can show you if you're like really interested in the details.
No, I've done
right
that
now.
kind of cutout thing before. But yeah, cool.
Great, thank you. Other questions for Ben? Raise your hand if you got one. Oh, yes.
What up?
Would you like a donut?
I would like a donut. What kind do you have?
Oh!
Holy cow.
Donut Man delivers.
My favorite type of donut. I know you guys are curious. Whoa, these are amazing. Where did these come from? Do you know? Local donut shop?
All right, I gotta commentate here. They're all sprinkles except for two. Oh, lots of sprinkles and glazed.
Oh my god.
Oh. How do we dole these out, Ben?
Let's see.
We have some
There's
eager
someone
donut.
who's right in front of us who would
All
like
right.
one.
Robin.
How is it? It's good.
Would someone else like a donut? A donut county donut. All right. It's first come, first serve. I'm gonna put these.
Thanks.
That was some record-breaking donut eating. Amazing. I think the boxes are completely empty now, so I hope if you wanted a donut that you got one. I did not. How sad. All right. Well, I think that probably wraps it up for Ben Esposito in Donut County. Give him a big hand.
Thank you. hopefully it was interesting in some way to you.
Thanks so much. So